Welcome back, it's Joanna, and today I'm in my bed because I want to talk about sleeping. Particularly, I want to talk about the 4-month sleep regression, what it is, how people say to get through it, and how we actually got through it. First up, what is the 4-month sleep regression? Well, when your baby's newborn, they just sort of sleep all the time. It's kind of random, there isn't really a cycle to it. Anywhere from 3 to sort of 4, 5, maybe even 6 months old, they will go through a developmental change in their bodies where they start to make their own melatonin. They will also start to develop their own circadian rhythm. This means that all of a sudden their sleep is going to change. So if you've got a baby and all of a sudden they're not sleeping, they're getting 30-minute naps in the day and they're waking up maximum every 2 hours at night, welcome, you're in the 4-month sleep regression. It's not necessarily a regression, it's actually a development. At the time, it really doesn't feel like a development, it does feel like a regression, but it's setting up sleep for the future. It could take just a few days, but for most people it takes like 6 weeks. It can take a while to get through this regression, and it's hard. So my first bit of advice is don't be hard on yourself, because I was. For naps, they're going to wake up every 30 to 45 minutes. That's one sleep cycle. They're going to go through different cycles, light sleep to deep sleep, and then light sleep. They will wake up after this, and then ideally, they're going to start another sleep cycle. They're probably not going to do this for quite a long time because they don't know how to link sleep cycles. When you type in how to get through the 4-month sleep regression, all of the results that come up are going to be from sleep consultants, sleep training websites, sleep coaches, apps that are all paid for. They want to basically get your money to sleep train your baby. If you are pro sleep training, fair enough. I've done loads of research, I've tried it myself. I've also come to the conclusion that it's not something that I want to do, and it personally isn't something that I believe in. If you are someone that doesn't want to sleep train and your baby's in a 4-month sleep regression, watch to the end because this video hopefully will give you some really good advice. There are four ways that you will know that your baby is going through the 4-month sleep regression. Suddenly their sleep will just get worse. They will probably start waking every 30 minutes for naps and every maximum 2 hours at night. They can really struggle all of a sudden to get enough daytime and nighttime sleep. They can become fussy, just not very happy, and a lot harder to settle as well. Their feeding might be really distracted as well. They're all of a sudden really aware. This can also be detrimental when you put them down in their cot, you feed them to sleep, rock them to sleep. They think that they're on you. You put them down in their cot and they wake up upset because they're like, where am I? Why am I not in mummy's arms? What do you do about it? If you look online, everyone will tell you you need to get baby to fall asleep independently. Put them down drowsy but awake. Sleep train them. Don't let your baby rely on you to get to sleep. Don't feed them to sleep. Don't rock them to sleep. Babies aren't like that. Babies are beings that are relying on you for their survival. I read something once, I think it was on a midwife website, and it basically said that babies don't know that they're not on an African savannah. They don't know that they're safe in a lovely plush cot. They don't know that. When they're in your arms, that's when they feel safe. When they're on the boob, that's when they feel safe. When all they know is that they're vulnerable because they're not in mummy and daddy's arms. Harris, at about 3.5 months old, started to go through the sleep regression. He had reflux pretty much since birth, so sleep has never been that great, to be honest. Reflux for us made the whole 4-month sleep regression a lot harder because Harris wanted to be fed to sleep. Being fed to sleep meant that I had to hold him up for 30 minutes after every time he had milk, which was hard when baby's waking up every 30 minutes to 2 hours. I wanted to keep feeding to sleep, but your body's designed to do it. You literally, baby falls asleep quickly because you're giving them melatonin, you're giving them oxytocin. It literally puts them to sleep chemically. For the first few weeks of the sleep regression, I followed all of the advice that you see online. Following wake windows, having a good routine, trying to get them fall asleep independently, putting them down, drowsy but awake, stopping feeding to sleep. I did all of those things. I tried sleep training as well. I tried gradual crying, so leaving them for a minute, leaving them for 2 minutes. It didn't work. I felt awful doing it. I spent probably 2 months of my life researching, reading scientific papers, trying to understand, should I or should I not sleep train? Psychologically, scientifically, biologically, should I do it? And I personally came to the conclusion that Harris needs nurture and he needs love, and I want to do this the easiest way for both myself and for him, and that was feeding him to sleep. For a while I put him in his cot, I would try and get him to sleep, rocking him, put him down, and he would wake up because he had reflux, he needed to be sick. What we started to do was being consistent. We had a routine. So we had a nap time routine and we had a bedtime routine. Nap time routine, very short and sweet. We'd do a nappy change, but have a bit of milk. I did have about a week or two of trying every single nap in the cot, and it was horrendous. It was the worst my mental health has been postpartum. After this period, I was like, I need to just be a bit kinder to myself. So I thought, I'm gonna have one nap in the cot a day. And this basically was just so that he was familiar with being in a cot for when he did have longer sleep. He knew that he was safe in the cot. The rest of his naps would either be in the pram or in the sling. Now the sling is something that honestly saved my life. Every time he was fed, he needed to stay upright for 30 minutes. Being in a sling, his reflux never bothered him. It meant that I could go and do chores, I can live my life, I could watch TV, I can go out for walks. It changed the game for me. When Harris was in the sling, this is when he actually started to link sleep cycles first. This is what would happen. Harris, who's just woken up from a nap, he's in the sling. He'd wake up, he'd be sad. I would shush him, I'd pat him, I'd say, it's okay, we'll go back to sleep. Pat, pat, pat. And all of a sudden, he would then go back to sleep. He would get like 2 to 3 sleep cycles in the sling. Really consistently, he was getting long naps. This is really important because he then started to know that when he'd wake up from his 30-minute nap, he was safe, and he'd look up at me after a while and just see me, and he'd go back to sleep. I wouldn't necessarily have to pat him and rock him every time. The biggest part of getting through the sleep regression is having your child know that they are safe enough so that they can go back to sleep. The second biggest way that we got through the sleep regression was nighttime sleep. For the first 3 weeks, I put him in his cot, was very consistent about like him having separate sleep space, trying to rock him back to sleep, pat him, and it was honestly an absolute nightmare. I was exhausted. What we started doing is that we were feeding to sleep. I'd have to keep him upright for 30 minutes. Throughout the night, every 2 hours, this is really, really hard. I'd hold him upright in the chair and put him down to sleep, and I just couldn't do it. I started to co-sleep. This was the solution. He was happy sleeping, and then he'd wake up after 2 hours next to me and would be like, I want milk, I want to go back to sleep. I'd latch him on. I would sit up in bed. A lot of people that co-sleep would have baby like curl in a C-curl and feed and latch on. That didn't work because he had reflux. So what we would do is feed him. I would stay awake the whole time because it's dangerous to fall asleep if you're like this. Do not fall asleep with baby sat up, propped up in bed. Very dangerous. Then we would go back down and we'd have our little C-curl in bed. Sometimes he would latch on and that was fine, and I would feed him the boob, but he may well then have woken up and been sick. Not having to get up out of bed and not having to get up and shush and pat and rock, oh my gosh, it changed the game. Yes, I had to stay upright and hold him and stay awake, but not having to get up honestly changed the game for me. What happened after a few weeks of doing this, safely co-sleeping, following all of the safe sleep rules, I noticed that our sleep cycles were linking up. Biologically, your brain waves match with your baby if you're co-sleeping. So if your baby's coming out of a sleep state, you are going to too. If I was to wake up, within honestly 10 seconds, Harris would wake up. And I noticed a few times that he would just look up at me, see that I was there, and he would go back to sleep. And we started to then get a few nights where we'd get like 4 hours sleep. And after a few weeks, this became consistent. This said it all. He knew that because I was there for him every single time he woke up, he knew that I was always going to be there. He never cried. And for me, that said it all, that one day he was just developmentally ready to link sleep cycles. And he did. And the best way that I was able to get him to do that was by consistently being there for him. He started to do this with naps as well. Naps took a lot longer, to be honest. Like, I was doing sling naps for quite a long time because it was the only way where I was getting him to consistently getting long naps. This was really random. I think he was about 7 months old, so quite a while for naps. We went to my sister-in-law, my brother and my sister-in-law's house, put him down for a nap, thinking it was going to be half an hour, and he stayed asleep for an hour and a half. Because we consistently always did a cot nap, he was very familiar with the cot, so he never woke up afraid or worried about where he was. At this point, I tried 3 nights of putting in his own cot at night for the whole night, and it just didn't really work. He was really upset. It honestly broke my heart. I hated being away from him. At this point, I started to put him in his own cot for the start of the night, and at about 2 in the morning, bring him back and would co-sleep for the rest of the night. It meant that we were transitioning from co-sleeping to independent sleep. We did that for another month or 2, and now that Harris is 8 months old, it's only probably been about 2 weeks where he's been consistently getting full night's sleep in his own bed. So he pretty consistently gets about an hour and a half nap twice a day, and at night he will nearly every night go about 4 to 5 hours, and then he'll want a feed. I'm not going to put you under any false pretenses that this is always the case. Today we've had 2 poor naps. We had a 15-minute nap and a half an hour nap, and also we're now in the 8th month regression, which basically means that he has developed separation anxiety. He knows that mummy might not come back. The moment that you are through the 4-month regression, there's probably going to be another regression around the corner, or there's going to be teething or something. And this is my biggest reason why I'm not going to sleep train, because most people that sleep train say that they have to keep retraining because something comes up. They get ill and they want boob to sleep. Their teeth start coming through, they want boob to sleep. They go travelling, they want boob to sleep. Whether you want to co-sleep or not, that is completely your choice. The biggest thing that you can do for your baby is just be consistent and show up for them every single time. My biggest bit of advice is to be realistic about what baby sleep looks like. You can sleep train and do all these things, but ultimately, baby sleep is always going to be up and down. They're always going to have teeth come through. They're always going to go through developmental leaps where they're going to want mummy or daddy all of a sudden. Sleep training doesn't get rid of any of these things. It just means that they are more likely to fall back asleep on their own. Once I accepted that baby sleep for the first 2 years of life is not linear, it's much easier to accept that baby sleep is very up and down. You will get through the 4-month sleep regression. Just go with the flow. Do what is easiest. Do what's best for you and your baby, because sleep is always going to be changing. It's always going to go up and down, and they do it when they are developmentally, psychologically and emotionally ready to do it. So I hope that that has really helped you. I hope that has alleviated some worry and a bit of confusion and a lot of pressure, because there's so much pressure to sleep train. I'm here to tell you that it gets better. Trust your gut. One day I'll have a baby that just sleeps on his own and easily, and then I'm gonna have another one, and it's all gonna go out the window, and it's all gonna happen all over again. So if you want to follow along with the journey, give us a like, comment below, subscribe. It really helps out my channel. Have any advice for other people watching this video? Comment below. People love to hear different people's stories. How did you get through it? And until next time, I'm off to sleep. I'll see you later.